What is going on? It's Alex coming back at you with another video, and today I'm going to be breaking down a CBS 2025 NFL mock draft. If you are new, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. You guys know how to use YouTube. Below my face is my board. A lot of guys are continually getting updated, so it's a great way before I end up putting out my mid-season rankings on all these players to see kind of some sneak peeks at the guys who are rising and also, unfortunately, the ones who are falling. But I ended up doing the Draft Network, a TDN mock the mock yesterday, and then I kind of got like a little facetious when I started calling out CBS for having crap mock drafts. So I thought it's only right for us to have CBS featured on the show. So let's get on in with this. Obviously, this is just after, spoiler alert, this is just after the Penn State and UT game. So had a quite a blast watching both of those simultaneously, and hopefully you guys did too. Let's get right into this though, starting out with the #1 overall selection. What the hell, CBS? With Travis Hunter going to the Patriots. He's probably going to be a wide receiver, not really a cornerback. I guess if you think that he's the best player in the class, sometimes getting the best player is really what's worth it, but I don't really know if Travis Hunter adds to this team the way that even someone like Josh Simmons could. I don't really think that receiver is the area that's lacking, because I do see Javon Baker as well as Jalen Polk being those two rising stars. Pop Douglas as well would honestly be in the role that I'd want for Travis Hunter. And personally, I think Pop Douglas is a really, really solid target. But continuing on, we got Will Johnson at #2 for the Bengals. Obviously, that's the smart move. If you do not go Will Johnson, the best move is Nick Scorton, so you can't really go wrong by choosing either of them. Boost that defense and get yourself a great player. At pick #3, we have Shedeur Sanders to the Browns, the move I made this past week. However, I did it either /late first or early second, depending on where the Browns could end up moving up to. And I actually ended up pairing him with Travis Hunter. I thought that was going to be more the cool factor. With Deshaun having 2 years of $80 million cap hit, I don't really know if Shedeur's that type of guy where you're wanting to develop him for those 2 years, or you're simply just saying, screw it, we're going to deal with Deshaun on the bench, just absolutely eating our cap alive, and then we're going to start Shedeur. That's a big question that you guys will have to figure out, but it's certainly a weird point in the franchise to go after a quarterback this early. But again, there's 7 rounds. There's a way that you can end up pivoting and ending up doing a really damn good job with even keeping Shedeur as your starting quarterback. But we'll see tonight how he ends up performing versus Kansas State. That's a big, big challenge, and I'm super excited because it's the actual NFL translatable game since he ended up playing Nebraska and did not do well against Nebraska. So I'm very excited for him to rewrite the wrong. People think I genuinely do not like Shedeur Sanders. Just because I am not as high on a player as you are does not mean I do not like him. He's my QB6. Like, it sounds like, oh my God, you hate him, but at the end of the day, there's not very much that's separating these quarterbacks. It's not, let's not get that far. But regardless, I'd prefer good football over being right with certain instances. And you know what? If we get good football, I'll take that any damn day. At pick #4 for the Rams, they go Will Campbell, left tackle, big position to address. Right now, I'm having Josh Simmons eke out over Will Campbell. And, you can't go wrong with either of the two. At #5, we got Mason Graham going to the Jaguars. This is the first one I genuinely do not agree with. Like, I can see the logic in all the other ones, except right here with the Jaguars. They drafted 2 defensive interiors last year, including bringing on Eric Armstead. Like, it's just, sometimes you just need to, you sometimes need to bite the bullet and admit you're wrong, but Mason Smith was a developmental guy from the day one. He was never supposed to be an instant impact. Overdrafted a bit, but still somebody that needs time to develop. So you're already admitting failure there. And then Eric Armstead is like still somebody, when healthy, will continue to reinvest in yourself. And then also forgetting the other LSU defensive interior you drafted as well, I believe in the 5th round. So I just don't really see the logic here at all. Unfortunately, especially when you have offensive line issues, when you even could be going after another receiver, especially a boundary cornerback, there's a lot of really good value with players who are worth this pick. It doesn't make very much sense. At pick 6, Mikael Williams goes to the Panthers. 0 production this year in terms of being worth a top 10 pick. There's been no signs that he should come out even at this point. A ton of talent, we all know that, and someone who should be a top 10 pick. But based on his production this year and his play, I do not see a top 10 pick whatsoever. That's why he's starting to slip in a lot of respectable mock drafts, and certain people are a little bit still behind. And again, 6'5", 265, freak athlete, one of the top guys coming out of high school as well. It was the first All-American game I ended up watching. Actually, the only All-American game I've watched in its totality, and I really did like him. But regardless, his play this year does not justify pick 6. And it's not like we're talking about Travon Walker here. Mikael Williams is a great athlete at that size, but Travon Walker was a raw player who still produced relatively well for how raw he was. Mikael was supposed to be far superior than where we thought Travon was, but even Travon, people think, was overdrafted. So if that's the case, Mikael is very, very, very many steps behind. Because I remember Mikael is, I think, 5 or 6 points lower than what I graded Travon initially. So, I mean, again, I've been more of a Mikael hater, so to speak, in terms of the draft position, but I really hope that he ends up playing through the end of the year and ending up being worth this pick. At pick 7, T-Mac goes to the Titans. He's not going to be a separator in terms of any form of route running. He's a garbage route runner. Let's just be honest. He's absolutely crap as a route runner. Generates 0 separation apart from with his speed. And so you have to hit him perfectly in the hands for it to be actually usable in the NFL, or pretty much hope for a blown coverage or a little bit of a slower defensive recovery. That being said, that allows him still, since he is that athletic, to be able to be really, really solid in both open space through zone coverages and soft spots, as well as deep. So there's certainly a role where I think Tetaroa could be a really big addition, and his hands are awesome. So, pause, but that's why I'm a bit lower on T-Mac than maybe some other people are. Again, it's going to be very, very, very role specific. It'll be heavily focused on post-draft analysis. Replacing DeAndre Hopkins, not going to be a bad idea. I still am personally on the fix the offensive line first, but I don't really see actually too many right tackles worth this pick. I'd probably go Josh Simmons and test him out right tackle, or put J.C. Latham back to right tackle and then go Josh Simmons at left, but I digress. I mean, Tetairoa McMillan would fill a role that is currently on the squad with DeAndre Hopkins, so I'm not going to say it's a bad pick by any stretch, just a little bit early for me. Dallin Walker goes at pick number 8. We'll have to see how he does. I think this week, I'm forgetting who they're playing. Do they have a bye week this week? I'm trying to remember. There's so many damn good games this week, but he's been very, very, very unproductive as a pass rusher, and primarily that's just because he's a big wall of meat that stands up too tall, but he has really good technique, and you're not going to get anywhere when you stand up really tall, have poor leverage, and you have to pretty much win with your technique. When you're 345 pounds and 6'6", you need to add your leverage into that to be able to create better opportunities. And that's why he's been pretty solid in the run defense, because he's a massive human being. But pass rush wise, he's been extremely, he's been an extreme letdown. But I really do hope that Deion continues to improve, because he was one of those guys when he was a true freshman, stood out to me. I'm excited to see what he can do as his time progresses. Carson Beck goes at pick number 9 to the Jets. This is made this week, so I don't really understand why you'd imagine that the Jets would, especially with Aaron Rodgers still at the helm, go after a high-floor quarterback that necessarily doesn't bring that NFL starter foundation. It's someone that he'll be for sure you'll be on an NFL roster for an extended period of time. He will never be a busted pick in the aspect that he's not going to be on a 53. I think his floor, his athleticism, and his overall experience in the game will allow him to remain on a roster similar to a Clayton Tune. But I think he's a better version of Clayton Tune, and that's why he's graded as a fringe starter for me. But talking about him being at pick number 9, the future, the franchise of the Jets, if you're going to go after that, swing for the fences. Go after Milroe, go after Ward. Don't try to settle with Carson Beck, because that's just not how you're going to win games. Pick number 10 for the Cardinals, Ben Morrison. I honestly think that the Cardinals corner core is not doing too shabby. I honestly think their secondary is one of their best aspects. But I mean, if Ben Morrison's here, you can't say it's a bad pick. There's probably better picks, but I mean, going after a corner in the NFL is never a wrong decision. Deep down, I do think Ben Morrison could even stay based on his performance this year. It's not been adequate comparatively to what the actual talent we know he has. And maybe people see through that. The NFL tends to be able to understand that talent sometimes doesn't always produce on a linear scale. But Ben Morrison, he's a true junior. He has time to develop and time to go back to school if he wants to boost his stock to a Will Johnson level. However, if the Cardinals get him, got to address I got to see how they do in the other rounds, because defensive interior, pass rush, those are key positions, offensive line as well. Pick number 11, Cam Ward to the Raiders. It's a pick that I think is perfectly fine. I believe this was what I did last week, or actually, well, technically this week. That was a video I think I posted 2 days ago, so I think I should know, or actually 3 days ago, because I ended up trading up with the Raiders for Cam Ward. You can check that video out, because I can guarantee you it wasn't their first pick I ended up trading for Cam Ward. It was their second. So banger first round for the Raiders, I got to admit. Then we got Nick Scorton going to the Saints at 12. Super excited to see him bounce back to where we knew he was. I mean, he ended up slipping noticeably, but it was literally only 2 points. It does show you how little separation there is from being a top 10 player to being a top 20. And again, that's pretty fair. There's a certain threshold in the NFL that you just see somebody who is like an 80 overall, so to speak, and they're like 10 times as impactful as a 75, but they're only 5 points difference. It does happen. Like, that is just human nature, or it's just the nature of the world, where like talent gets you like more and more to a certain point, and then it will plateau until you reach that next threshold, and then you go up. Because it's like Justin Jefferson doesn't run routes 10,000 times better than, Brian Thomas, but he runs it at probably 5 or 10 points more, and then that's that next threshold to where you're unguardable. So it doesn't mean that you are like necessarily unbelievably better, but you reach that threshold to where you can become elite. And that's why I also have my tiers between starter, blue chip, generational. Like, there is a reasoning behind that, because I think these thresholds really do determine the value, and it's not just based on points. It's a legitimate thing. The world has thresholds, and I think that, if we can see Nick Scorton continue to thrive in this build, and even if he wants to drop a little bit of weight, add a little extra speed, and maintain that power, we could easily see him being in one of those elite levels. So I don't know how the hell I got on that tangent, but Nick Scorton's a good pick. I think I was talking about that point differential, but I digress. Malachi Starks to the Colts is a smart move. Very talented defensive back, can carry the mantle for when Moore wants to head out. So I love that as well, because you can have a contingency plan for the most valuable defensive player on your team while he can end up contributing elsewhere. Big fan of that idea right there. Kelvin Banks goes to the Niners. He's a quality offensive tackle who could even play guard in the short run if need to at 6'4". So you do have that nice versatility, nice mobility as well overall. Maybe it could be limited for a tackle. I know some people believe in that, but for me, I think the leverage has been the biggest issue more than anything, and technically that is coachable. Quinn Ewers goes to the Giants at 15. This is obviously before the Texas OU game, and a lot of people will still put, based on the performance, Quinn in this range. I'm just not a big Quinn guy. I saw a lot of mistakes that Quinn makes, and he needs to be in rhythm to be effective. And unfortunately, that doesn't really work in the NFL. It's the quarterbacks that can start in rhythm, and then, there's certain times where every NFL quarterback gets out of rhythm, but then they need to snap back into it. I didn't really necessarily see that from Quinn. I love the fact that he got a little bit back into rhythm, but I saw a ton of inefficiency, a ton of horrible play from Oklahoma. Oklahoma just had a shitty game. Let's be real with each other. Like, that game should have been 60, 70 to 10 at most. Like, that game was atrocious. And the interception by Quinn Ewers it's somebody who I really wanted to root for. I'm an Ohio State fan, like my family. I have some Buckeyes in the family. So when I saw Quinn going to Ohio State, this is a guy who I was rooting for. I'm very, very, very pro Quinn Ewers, but I am a realist, and I do see a lot of inefficiencies with his game that will need to be ironed out. He's not a day one starter, in my opinion, but you look at the Giants, and if you can get him in your second round, then I think it might be worth it. But it's going to be pretty ballsy to give up on the quarterback position with a developmental player in the first. So that's just me. James Pierce is a perfect fit for Vic Fangio's defense. He's going to be the Andrew Van Ginkel of it. Very high run defense, especially for his size. Maybe not going to be to a Nick Scorton level, but when you look at how he could fit hand and glove into this defense, I love that system fit. Jonas Avenia to the Bears, guard / tackle / center. Allows you a lot of flexibility in terms of how you address the next round, seeing who falls and seeing where you can actually end up plugging this guy. But I don't think he's a first round player. I do think that he is somebody that is going to be in that day 2 zone, but I do love the fit for the Bears. Then we have Abdul Carter, edge rusher out of Penn State. He had some big flashes today. The Penn State defense was awful versus the run. A lot of big plays there for Woody Marks. And it's not like Abdul was the primary guy at fault, but he wasn't somebody that was consistently a factor in the run game. But still saw a lot of flashes from him. And I think that if you're at 18, this is one of the players with a higher ceiling that I would take. I was not a fan of Lucas Van Ness because I thought he was a one-trick pony with his power. Abdul Carter's not a one-trick pony. I really do like the fact that he has a lot of flexibility and he has a lot of room to grow. Walter Nolan goes at 19 to the Chargers. I find that hard over if you're choosing Walter Nolan over Kenneth Grant because of the system fit, because of the frame. But Walter Nolan's an absolute beast. He's playing like he's worth a top 20 pick this year, and I'm excited for him, but it's tough for me to justify it over the other options available. Colston Loveland then goes to the Seahawks. I could totally see this happening. You also pair him up with A.J. Barner, which would be sick. You have instant chemistry right there, and it allows you to kind of be able to play them like they did in Michigan, where they can complement each other. One is a primary run blocker. One of them is also a primary receiver. So they really do mesh well, and Colston Loveland's not a slouch when it comes to blocking. I honestly think he's quite solid, very underrated. But, it's Colston Loveland performs very well for an offense that performs very poorly. And I think he should be going probably even before this, but regardless, this tight end class is starting to have a couple names at the top that are actually doing a fantastic job. I could see 3 first-round tight ends, which is ballsy to say, but I think there's a big gap after the first 3. Luther Burton then goes to the Steelers. It's going to be literally Deontay Johnson. Do you believe he can play on the outside? That's the question. He's 5'11". Do you think that he can end up playing on the outside? If your answer is yes, then good. Otherwise, you're saying F you to Roman Wilson, and then you're going to have some controversy there. I would prefer to wait, especially in this class. There's a lot of really underrated names. I prefer to wait. If you're not going to get someone like T-Mac that, based on our quarterback play, has been proven to be an effective style of receiver for our offense, I would just prefer to let our scouts do what they've done best for the past couple decades, which is snipe dudes down the board. So continuing on, we got Ashton. You got Milroe on the board as well. Talk about a perfect system fit for a cheaper contract than having to sign a quarterback full time and you get 5 years out of him. I digress though. Ashton Jeanty goes at pick 22. Not to mention, I would have went Ashton Jeanty. He's going to be someone who goes in the top 5 to top 10. There's no way he escapes the top 10. Just simply put, this guy had over 1,000 yards when he was taken out at half in 2 games. Out of, I think, 6? Just some crazy shit. So good job to Ashton Jeanty. This guy's been a freak. If he can somehow make it here, which he won't, he could tear his Achilles, and I don't think he'd make it to 22. That's how damn well he's been playing. And knock on wood, swear to God, that better not happen. Knock on wood, that doesn't happen. But I'm saying that the talent is so damn good that I have a running back in my top 10. That's insane to me. That really is. And versus Oregon, which I heavily weighted his grade based on his performance versus Oregon, I did see a reduction in his ability to go through players, get that extra yard, but that was a strength of his before. I don't know if maybe he was almost being a little more conservative because on those second effort plays where he was trying to push through, get those extra yards, that's where his 5 fumbles primarily came from. But he's been doing a great job bouncing off tackles and such. Bouncing off tackles is an amazing trait to have. Contact balance is super key. And then, in the NFL, there's still guys who don't do perfect form. But I do prefer the running backs that can do that, but also push that extra yard, which I do believe Ashton has. But it's still something to note that maybe he's being a little bit more conservative in terms of going through guys. And maybe that's also why he's bouncing off more. He's just primarily focusing on just not going down rather than punishing the player. Still something I think he can do. But something at least to note. Pick number 23 for the Cowboys. You got Mecca Ibuka. He's a solid receiver, and a number 2 receiver on this squad is going to be very, very, very welcomed. He just needs to remain healthy, and he's done that this year. So really hoping that all the health checks out. That's why I'm really holding off, but he looks so much better this year than he did in the past. I'm excited to get him a good reevaluation. They finally played a couple defenses that in my opinion, are more NFL translatable. So I'm going to feel a lot more comfortable, and then we're going to be watching him very, very soon. Actually, I'm pretty sure the game is now on, so I'm going to be getting to that. At 24, you got Tyler Booker to the Buccaneers. I don't think this is going to be the move. Personally, do not think this is going to be the move. But if you end up seeing guard as a legitimate issue on the Buccaneers, which I don't think it's in the top 3, especially with the tight ends on the board. I mean, I would prefer to take a tight end. Cade Otton, to me, is just not a starting quality tight end. But you look at edge rusher, you look at tight end, you also look at linebacker. Those are the 3 that I want to address, especially with the proper value, and throw linebacker down the board. Like, offensive line, I'll never shame a team for it because, I mean, that's, if you win in the trenches, if your offensive line's cooking, receivers, even if they're mid and you have an okay play caller, they'll eventually get open. If you have good protection, I mean, it's going to be their best friend. So, again, not going to like say, oh, this pick would be an absolute F. If you ended up drafting a Buns offensive lineman here, different question. Tyler Booker's a stud. But I think there are better positions with better talent like Jalen Walker on the board that I would prefer to go after. However, Tyler Booker's a great player. You know, again, wouldn't really shame it because of the talent of offensive line. It's just not remotely where I would be focusing. Excuse me, I got hiccups now. Then we got pick 25, Tacario Davis, defensive back out of Arizona. I do think he's going to be a defensive back. I'm worried about him as a pure corner, but the IQ is there, the length is there, the just overall of like his fluidity besides at full speed, which is a weird thing to say, but his change of direction at full speed when he's playing actual corner position is not good. But if he's having to just come downhill, i.e. off coverage, I think he does a fantastic job. So hoping that he bounces back and continues to do better. He had just let up 107 yards this past week. So keep that in mind. But continuing on, we got Josh Simmons here for the Ravens. I'd hate it as a Steelers fan, but you guys know what I think of Josh Simmons. I think he's going to be, I said, as a blue chip tackle, potentially even better as a guard. I don't say that lightly. And Josh Simmons was somebody who was all show, kind of no performance last year. And he did a solid job last year, but no NFL-style performance. This year, everything just came together. And remember when I was talking about those thresholds? Like, he was like a 68, 69. And it's like when you get to 70, that's when you start seeing like those real NFL tackles start to come out and about. He beat that. And based on his skill set, it just propelled upwards. Like, he was somebody that had a 90 potential. Like, if you're looking at it in terms like Madden, like, he had a 90 potential, but he had like an instant impact rate of like a 66. And once you beat a certain threshold, you get a lot closer to that 90. And I think he did this year. With the right offensive line coach, I think this dude could be a legitimate all-pro tackle. But, definitely a Pro Bowler at tackle. That's the floor for him, in my opinion. Especially in a Ravens offense that does tend to really love these athletic offensive tackles. And it's pretty ballsy to say it, but especially if he goes to guard, I would say all-pro instantly. Not like maybe year 1, but I'm saying he's going to get an all-pro. I'd feel very confident about that. He's just such a fluid athlete, has all the technique that you're looking for. His anchor could be spotty at times, but for me, I think overall, consistently, he does a fantastic job. The only times I've seen him actually lapse, he lapses for 2 plays. It's a very interesting thing. He didn't in the Michigan State game. I think it happened twice. There are 2 sets of 2 plays. One of those was the play he gave up a pressure on. So there were 4 plays out of an entire game that he ended up playing relatively poorly. And it's because he got in his own head. He didn't bounce back instantly. And I think that's something with more experience, and especially with a better mentor, because I think he is the best offensive lineman right now on Ohio State. I think that that's going to be something that just vanishes because he still only had a lack of confidence for 2 plays at a time. He still bounced back right after that. So I do have a lot of faith in Josh Simmons. It's weird because, again, I was like, guys, he's all show, no performance at the moment, but he is definitely performing now. Landon Jackson goes at 27 to the Falcons. Edge rusher is a key position for Atlanta. I'm not there with Landon yet in the first round, but his performance has been really, really solid. He's a freaky frame. If you can make it work, make it work. Pick 28, we got JT Tuimalau going to the Lions. It's a pick I've made, just not in the first round. I'm still not fully there with JT. I like him in that second round, though. Pick number 29, you got Cam Williams, right tackle out of Texas. Proper value for him, honestly. Where's he at on my board? Where the hell do I have this guy? It's like 54. Yeah, he's at 54 on my board. So, again, there's also a lot of dudes who deserve to fall. Remember, I keep, especially in my green zone, my starters that I think are going to be dropping. The hell, I don't have a star. I was not supposed to have a star next to Harold Perkins' name. It's supposed to be a plus for injury, but I mean, technically that will drop him anyways. Anywho, he's going to be around that like 45 range. And that's perfect for 29. Perfect. And he's someone who can easily continue to go up. He's very raw. So just currently, based if like the draft happened right now and you need someone to play right now, he's like a day 2 guy, like an early day 2, round 2 guy. And if you take him late round 1, I ain't going to blame you. But if you're looking at career-wise, yeah, he's a first rounder. So continuing on at pick number 30, you got Tyleik Williams, pick I make a billion times over. So I'm going to leave it there. I mean, it's defensive tier is key. Tyleik Williams is a beast. He's been doing a great job overall. Kenneth Grant then goes to the Kansas City Chiefs. Another pick that, say it with me, I made a billion times. So really liking that. And then ending it off perfectly with Denzel Burke. Mr. I do everything really damn well. Like literally jack of all trades, maybe master of none. But, just someone who is never going to be a true liability, in my opinion. And well, so far from what I've seen of Denzel, I haven't seen a liability. And sometimes in the NFL, that's all you need. Just one less guy to worry about. Like just, Denzel's going to do his job. And I love that for the Vikings, especially with that value. It's going to be incredible. The only guy I would also consider there is also on his team on the other side of the ball, and Quinshon Judkins. But that's going to be the video. Thank you so much for watching. I love you. See you on the far side. Peace.